name is Ken Foreman. I'm the current chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we will call the April 19th meeting of the Zoning Board to order. Before we begin, let me just ask everyone please to silence your cell phone, and I'll give you a little overview of the proceedings and introduce the board. So let me start by introducing the board. To your left, my right, is T.J. Hurry, who's vice chair of the board. The woman that just walked in and left, Tim Beelen, is secretary of the board. Clerk. Ed Van Kuren is a voting member of the board. Paul Murphy, voting member of the board. And Robert Dugan is an associate member of the board. And I guess
Jerry is absent.
Yeah, and Jerry's absent, so Robert may be involved in some of the meetings, some of the hearings tonight. And then we have Saree Boudreau, who I'm sure many of you know, who's our zoning administrator, and Megan Petiti, who's our recording secretary tonight. So the zoning board is charged with hearing appeals for special permits and considering variances as provided by the bylaws of the town of Falmouth, and those have been approved by town meeting and by the Attorney General's office. So our goal is to hear full and fair testimony on each project that is presented before rendering a decision, and we'll begin each hearing by asking the clerk, Kimberly, to read a public announcement of that hearing for any new hearings and present some pertinent information from the file, such as referrals from town departments or a summary of the correspondence we've received. And then we will ask the applicant's representative to present the project or their request to us. We grant 15 minutes for the applicant's representative, and then the board will question the applicant or the representative, and then invite public comment. If you wish to speak, we ask that you wait to be recognized by the chair and then go to the podium and state your name clearly for the record so we can get that into the minutes. We would like you to confine your comments to 2 minutes, and you can express an opinion in favor or opposed if you have a clear view, or you can simply ask a question if you have a question. But direct everything through the board, please. Obviously, refrain from making derogatory or personal comments. And then if the board feels they have enough information, we will close the hearing. We may have some discussion prior to closing, and we may have additional discussion after closing. If we don't think we have enough information, we may vote to continue the hearing to a date certain in the future. A decision in favor requires a 4-to-1 supermajority for special permits. So, and I guess for comprehensive permits, it's a simple majority. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, so with that background, the first hearing tonight is a continuation, 004-18, T-Ticket Car Wash.
Excuse me, it's 005. That's an error. My apologies.
Okay, thank you. And I am not on this one, so I'm going to turn the meeting over to TJ.
And for the applicant, I believe we have Attorney Clower.
Just for the record, there has been information submitted, emails back and forth from myself to Attorney Clower and Amy Lowe, wastewater, and there's been a few more letters submitted to the file, and one was submitted tonight just before the hearing.
Good evening, Mr. Hurry, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with Ahmed Clower Law Firm here in Falmouth, and I represent the applicant, T-Ticket Car Wash, LLC. I'm joined tonight by Clint Kendall, who is the owner of the manager of T-Ticket Car Wash, LLC, in the audience with his wife, as well as by Ron Campagna, Bob Keane, and Matt Traffy, who are all part of the design team for this project. T-Ticket Car Wash, LLC is the leaseholder is the holder of a leasehold interest in the property known as 187 T-Ticket Highway. Following our last hearing, there have been a number of changes to the plans. We're seeking to address questions and concerns raised by the board as well as by the public. Since that hearing, we've submitted revised floor plans, revised exterior renderings, a revised site plan, and a revised landscaping plan. The most significant change to the plan is a reduction in the length of the building by 10 feet, which increases the setback from the street from 58 feet to 68 feet. This is done to allow for better traffic flow both onto the site and out of the building. In doing so, we did eliminate one of the parking spots, resulting in 11 spots, 8 of which are proposed as vacuum, 2 as regular spots, for lack of a better term, and 1 as a handicap spot. The bylaw does not set any sort of requirement for this particular use. Therefore, it falls into the other category, which is in which the needs of parking are determined by the building commissioner. I did meet with Mr. Palmer, and he agreed that the proposed parking is more than sufficient for the use that we're proposing, and a copy of that determination was submitted to the file. At the last hearing, Mr. Dugan had some questions over the guy poles on the site. Those poles will be removed. The utilities will, in fact, be underground from the street. We've also revised, at Ms. Beeland's request, the screening trees along the boundaries, and I've submitted some additional information regarding the vacuums. The vacuums that are proposed are of a newer model and technology. They're specifically designed quiet motors with insulated hoods. Studies have shown that the sound level at approximately 40 feet is 63 decibels. For context, 60 decibels is the volume of a quiet conversation. 55 decibels is the volume of a quiet neighborhood. On the northern side of the building, the park is at least 50 feet away at the closest point, and in many cases further, up to 70 feet, I believe, on the eastern side. And on the eastern side, the nearest vacuum stall is over 55 feet away. As mentioned during our last hearing, this proposed structure will be entirely conforming to the setback requirements. It'll meet and exceed the front, rear, and side yard setbacks. The revised building will be 2,957 square feet, representing only 12.3% of lot coverage by structure, far less than the 20% that is allowed by right. This lot is well-sized and well-suited for this building and use. The property is located where we've shown it in order to offer the most separation from the street, as well as to comply with requirements for parking stalls in the ways on either side of the building. It's been designed and engineered for clear traffic flow around the building and onto the street. There is a queue area which has not changed since our last application, but that queue area allows for the stacking of nearly 20 vehicles in order to address any concerns with backup towards Route 28. As to the traffic concerns that were raised, the ITE trip generation manual calculates the current permitted use as a fast food restaurant without a drive-through as having 26.15 trips per hour, which is 26 trips is 13 cars. One trip is both in you count a trip in and a trip out per car. An automated car wash of this nature is calculated at 14.12 trips per unit per hour per 1,000 square feet. In this case, our tunnel is 2,000 square feet, so 28.24 trips per hour, which is 14 cars per hour. One additional car per hour, essentially indistinguishable from the permitted use. Industry studies have shown that in New England, summer and fall are the 2 slowest times of the year for car washes, summer representing 20% of the uses, fall being 18%. Winter is actually 33%, and spring is 29%. As to the water usage, we did submit information in response to Ms. Lowell's letter. We're anticipating an average of approximately 4,500 cars per month. This is based on industry standards and comports with our estimation of 14 cars per hour. Each wash would use approximately 83 gallons, of which 62 are reclaimed, 6 are considered loss or evaporation, and 15.4 would be discharged after treatment. The permitted use on this site would allow over 1,000 gallons. What we're proposing is 2,200 gallons. The difference there, the 1,100 or so, is equal to approximately 3 houses. The reclamation tanks are located underground at the beginning of the building, located on the easterly side. They're fed by drains, both within the building, as well as in the drying area at the end. There is a drain trench, which would feed back towards it. This is to prevent runoff as cars leave the site. We're aware of the necessity for a sewer connection permit and intend to seek it as part of our typical permitting process. And in order to address the concerns raised by the 300 Committee and Just Rittenhour specifically, the applicant is amenable to installing all new stockade fencing, which would be located entirely on his property. And that was in response to the letter that was submitted earlier today. This property is in the Business 2 zoning district. I realize it abuts a park, but it is still zoned Business 2. This proposal eliminates existing nonconformities. It exceeds all the setback requirements by a considerable margin, provides a substantial improvement to the site. This is a good and appropriate development for the site, drastically improving the existing conditions, and is in line with both past approvals and uses. We believe that this meets all the standards required for a special permit under 240-3, 241-51B3, and 242-16. I'd be happy to address any questions that the board may have at this time.
Okay, we'll turn it to board questions. Bob, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, Kevin, on the ITE trip generation, I know that's for the automatic car wash. What's the trip generation for the vac stations?
I think it's all lumped together in the same generation. I don't think that there is a separate generation manual for.
So if you have, if you've got multiple vac stations, how would you figure out the number of trips on
I
that
think
situation?
it's based primarily on the car wash. I think that's how the trip generation, my understanding is the trip generation is based on the car wash usage, not on the vacuum usage.
Is there any way to get information on what the vac stations would run?
I don't know.
On the decimals, on the vac, the 63 decibels, is that for one vacuum or is that for?
It's per vacuum, but it would not be accumulatory. If you had two vacuums running, it's not 126 decibels.
But there would be some kind of an
if-
increase if you had multiples?
If I'm talking at a soft level here and someone else is talking at a soft level here, it's not as though that equals one scream.
On the fence that you just said is going to be removed and replaced, I know it still shows in the plan that there's that 4-foot wide right-of-way. Can anything actually be placed in that right-of-way, or do you have to stay out of it?
I don't know of any reason why not. As I talked about at the last hearing, there is no deeded use of that right-of-way. It appears on one plan out of many within the chain of title for the property. The engineer felt it was appropriate to show it on there when we submitted it, and since it was submitted with that, we didn't want to remove it because we don't want to seem duplicitous.
I know you moved the building back, and that does work a little better. I still have concerns with the curb cut. Is there any reason you wouldn't go for a wider curb cut so that the vehicles exiting the car wash don't have a straight right-of-way versus having to swerve to the right?
I don't know that you're allowed to have a wider curb cut than 30 feet because they typically don't want the curb cuts to be, especially within DOT usage, don't want curb cuts to be overly expansive.
I still can't get over this, what seems to be, could be a safety hazard when you're exiting that system and have to go curve towards the right to get out of the oncoming entrance.
Well, I think if you look at it as you'd enter here, yes, you will turn to the right into the queuing station. As you exit here, though, you're exiting this way, which goes into one of the two exit lanes.
But if you take a finger on the exit and you go straight,
Mhm.
you're curving to the right.
There's a slight.
So is there any plan for any kind of a separation to physically separate the lanes so that somebody exiting doesn't go into
No,
oncoming
there's
traffic?
no, they do plan to stripe them. They do not plan to install any islands.
So on the plan, like before, it seems that the landscaped green area has actually narrowed the current curb cut.
I think I think on the northern side, it's slightly narrower. On the southern side, I think it's expansive.
So if you left the curb cut the size it is, could you cut back some of that landscape space so you'd have a clear, so on the northern side, on
No,
the southern side at the
we
bottom?
can't because of lot coverage issues. Lot coverage by structures, paving, and parking prohibit that.
All right, on the vac stations, and I know they're just not physically on the plan, where are those vacs mounted? Are they mounted in that sidewalk?
So I have a rendering.
I saw the concept one that was in the file.
Yeah,
Um,
and if you look there, mounted on poles. One side of the pole is a trash can, the other side is the small vacuum unit.
So where they're mounted into the sidewalk, how much space does that take up out of the sidewalk for people?
I believe they're about 6 inches wide. I think they're relatively narrow poles.
And you are planning 8, even though the concept shows 9, you're only planning
Yes.
8, correct? On the questions that you had from Amy Lowell, and I know you'd have to deal with them with wastewater anyways, but they had asked for some info on a separator system.
We did submit there's a 3-tank separation system, which cleans all of the wastewater as it's processed.
Was that currently submitted? When I looked in the file, they had a containment system, but there was a notation on there that separator system wasn't included, and to check with local zoning and laws to see what would be needed with the town.
We submitted new information to Ms. Lowell last week. I haven't received any response from her or any notation about what was or wasn't there, but we did address the question.
The one, I don't know if it's in the file, but the one sheet that I saw that actually showed the containment tanks was missing any kind of a separator system, and just had a note that if that was needed.
There were 3 sheets submitted with the various systems included.
Yeah, you just might want to check. I just think it was overlooked.
Of course.
That's all I have right now.
I have no questions.
How do you monitor the evaporation? I noticed you say there's 6 gallons of it.
That's based on the industry notes. I think that's what they've calculated over many billions of
Depends on
washes.
where you are. Environmentally,
I think that's part of it, and I think, obviously, when you do drive off, there is still some water retained on the car, so that's considered loss, and then evaporation is what's lost throughout the system.
but normal evaporation is it's a lot different in Phoenix, Arizona than it is here.
Of course it is.
So I don't know, does that number pertain to Phoenix, Arizona, or? the
Well, those are the those are the numbers that the manufacturer provided to us, and they do car washes throughout New England. I don't know if it was calculated based on Phoenix or on Boston or on Falmouth, but the ratio they use is 6 gallons for loss/evaporation.
Is that monitored in any way in the software, whatever?
Other than, I think it would be monitored by the usage of the water. I think it would be hard to monitor that specific item individually.
Well, then the next question is, does the system monitor what's going into the waste, into the sewer system?
I'm going to defer to the engineers on this one.
Is there an engineer?
So the question was, does the system itself monitor what's discharged into?
No, no, it doesn't.
Oh, he did.
Is the system run by a computer?
Yes,
So could you just state your name for the
Ron
record? I know you did
Campagna.
when you were trying to get up.
yeah, Ron Campagna, Auto Wash Maintenance Corporation.
Thank you.
I didn't get it.
Is there any protection for hacking against the computer system associated?
It's not that type of computer system, it's not one that can be hacked, it's just a computer system
It's
that's,
a PLC, it's not,
PLC.
it's not a Bob Keen Auto Wash
So
Maintenance.
just, if you could
Yeah.
state your
Bob
name
Keen-
for the record, please.
Bob Keen Auto Wash Maintenance.
Thank you.
Install the system. So it's a PLC, it's not really computer controlled, so it just knows how to react to different, it just does a simulation of the same thing over and over. So it doesn't really, there's no internet tie-in or anything like that ties in. So it only knows, incoming water comes in, it just recirculates it, and anything that's lost would just come in, the water meter would basically calculate what we took in for water.
So it's monitoring the intake and the output?
Yeah, so the water meter from the town would be monitoring how much water we're pulling into the system.
And you monitor how much is going out?
But we
Is
don't-
waste?
We don't monitor how much is going out, but we do know how many cars we wash a day, so that can be calculated.
Okay.
Right.
All set, Ed?
For now.
Okay, I was just wondering, Kevin, if you could just walk through the additional screening that you've added?
So on the landscaping plan, there were, I believe, 6 or 7 trees. We're now showing 24, mostly along the northern and eastern edge here. There are additional trees located down in this area as well. And then we, as stated, we will be putting in a stockade fence
And you can put any trees south of that drive?
It's pretty narrow at that point,
It is.
so I think it becomes difficult. You know, I mean, we certainly would, but I don't want to plant something just for it not to have the necessary space.
Okay. How long, I think this was asked last time, I apologize, I don't have my notes. How long does it take for a car to go through this drive-through?
So the actual wash process itself is about 1.5 minutes. From the time you pay through when you get out, it's about a 5-minute process.
What's the additional time? So if I pay at the queue,
So, I mean, it would be the payment process itself, and then to the extent there's any queue waiting to load.
all right. And you said 14 cars per hour,
That's what,
trip generation.
that's what the trip generation.
But you have a queue for 20 cars.
That's on the 14 cars per hour is based on an average, so there would obviously be times that things are busier or slower. So we plan so that there is no likelihood of a backup.
Well, I don't think 14 cars an hour is necessarily, I mean, I'm not a traffic engineer, but I think on a busy summer day, it may be substantially more than that, so that's the concern. Okay,
But
so
summer's our slowest time of the year.
20 cars is the queue. Okay. And because you have the queue lines, which you need 20 cars for the queue.
I don't think there's a requirement for 20-car queuing, but that's what was proposed because we wanted to make sure that there was no likelihood of backup towards the road.
And because of that widening the width, you don't have room to do some other additional landscaping or pervious surface, jeez.
Yeah, I mean, we could, if we went down to one lane, would be cutting the queue area in half, but not necessarily the capacity of the car wash. So I think it's, in order to address many of the concerns seem to be traffic and backup.
Right, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just trying to understand how all of this design works together and is cohesive. Okay. Noise generation from the vacuum within the building.
From vacuum within the building.
Is there a vacuum within so you drive through, there's gonna be some kind of drying mechanism within
dryer.
the building? Yes, dryer, sorry.
Okay.
Do you know any information?
I
about
don't have the same information I have for the vacuums on the dryer. The dryer is located within the building. It's not exterior to the building.
Is the door open
The door is open
at the time? Okay.
because you're exiting as you.
Right. Okay. But no noise information as to that?
I don't have that information now.
Okay. And what were the hours of operation again?
We had talked about 8 to 8.
7 days a week? And you emphasized that there's no land or island proposed. What's the reasoning behind that?
I don't have the reasoning of the engineer for it. I think it would cut down on the available space, cuts down on turning areas. Having 2 lanes, I think, is more helpful than having the island separator there. So I think that was the rationale behind it. And it's worth noting that really where we end our lot line, it's still another 8 feet or so before you get to the actual road layout. Because the road layout is up this way.
Okay. I think that was all I had for the time being.
Okay, Kim?
Thank you.
Attorney Clower, I believe previous testimony had it that it was unlikely that the building could be reduced in size, but the revised plans show 10 feet, and the reasoning was it was pretty much a pre-manufactured unit in terms of the machinery itself, so how were you able to shave 10 feet off?
It took some rejiggering of the interior stuff, specifically the machinery. The machinery layout had to change pretty substantially on the interior side. They were essentially removed one of the arches, so to speak. My understanding is that as you reduce the size, you also increase the energy required to get the car as clean as you would. So for instance, if you had 3 arches, and it went through 3 separate cycles effectively, to do the same with 2 arches takes much more effort. So it slows the wash process slightly. So that's, but we were able to take off 10 feet. Taking off more than that is incredibly difficult based on what we've discussed with the engineers.
Okay. And because of the decrease in the length, I believe you also have a new lot coverage. Can you comment on that?
Sure. So in order to increase the traffic flow around the building, specifically in this area here, there was some change to the layout slightly. So the lot coverage has increased slightly from what was previously proposed, but is still the same as what is currently on the site.
And I'm sure you're aware of the Cape Cod Commission's Davis Straits reset study that was done in 2017, and specifically in regards to B2 zoning. They proposed a limit of auto services along T-Ticket Highway. And of course, under Falmouth zoning, a car wash is considered auto service. So can you make any comment on that?
The Davis Strait reset is advisory, essentially. It is not binding, nor is it mandatory for any of the boards to follow. The planning board did review this, and the planning board is the one who essentially commissioned the Davis Strait reset, and they were fully in support of the project. There was a site plan review decision that was filed. And if I'm remembering the language correctly, I believe it said limiting automotive services at key intersections within T-Ticket Highway. And I would not refer to this as a key intersection. It's along a very straight set of the area of the road. So that's how I would respond to that.
Okay. Does anyone have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, I have one. In regard to the noise from the blowers in the building, you indicated you built several of these. People have built several of these.
I haven't built any.
I know you have. People you're representing have done several in New England.
Mm-hmm.
Have they made any noise measurements at any of those? And if not, can they?
I'm trying to understand a chart that I haven't seen before, so bear with me for one moment.
Is the recorder on?
Okay.
Is the recorder on?
So at 1 meter from the dryer, it's 84 decibels. At 20 feet, it's 74. And at 50 feet would be at 68, which is not too far off from what the vacuum noise was at the same distance.
Is that something you can submit?
I can. Sri, if I can get a copy of that, that's
Sure.
the first I've seen it.
Any
I'll
other
scan
follow-up
it to you in
questions
the
from the board?
morning.
Ed, you all set?
Yeah.
Sari, do you have any questions?
No, Kimberly, no, I don't, thank you. Kimberly, can you put a note on that to scan to Kevin in the morning, please? Thank you.
Can I ask, actually, I'll ask a question about this. So, this letter, does this concern this specific site, or it concerns a different site?
That's the specific model.
If you could please come up.
It's specific to the model, not to the site. So if you look at the following chart, it gives you various conditions. So it shows you the make and model, and then the various conditions are referred to the distance. So it's not specific to the site. It's,
Okay, because
more
on the first paragraph, the letter is, the following is a summary of the blower sound level measurements taken at the site.
Well,
So,
that's right from the blower, so it's actually gonna be less because we were.
I understand.
We're protected by the building. The building's actually gonna reduce that substantially.
taken at the site on August 4th, 2016, but what's, I'm just asking.
That's a test facility
Okay,
for them,
all right.
an open building, you know.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Kim?
No, that's it, thank you.
Okay, if we're done with board questions, we can turn it over to public comment. And I'll just remind the public that I'll recognize each individual to come up. Please identify yourself and give your address. And we'll be holding public comment to 2 minutes per person. And just as a friendly reminder, we appreciate quality over quantity in terms of questions, concerns about the project. So thank you, Attorney Clower. And at this time, would anyone like to be recognized to speak regarding this project? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Cheryl Williams, and I'm co-president of the T-Ticket Civic Association. And I would first like to say that the T-Ticket Civic Association does not support this project because of all of the myriad of reasons that have been spoken to before.
And just for the record, you're authorized to speak on their behalf?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
We did submit a letter this evening, and I just very quickly would like to go through this. We have several concerns, comments, and questions. Lot coverage. I have a question. We looked at the plans, and although the setback has been decreased by 10 feet, when you take a look at the revised plan, the new length has been reduced by 10 feet, but the overall structure coverage, according to the plan, is increasing to 12.3%, which is an increase of 4%. So I guess I don't understand. Is the building actually being reduced in size, or are we just setting it back and is it becoming wider? So that would be one question. If you take a look, I mean, the total structure coverage is increasing from 1785 square feet, 7.4%, to 2957 square feet, 12.3%, which is an increase of 4%. Okay, so, and then the total lot coverage isn't changing. It's staying basically the same. So because the total lot coverage is not changing and you're actually, moving that building a little bit, how is the significant increase in impervious lot coverage being addressed by stormwater control? That would be one question. Traffic and parking. We're very concerned with the increase of traffic that this business is going to generate in an already congested and heavily burdened area. And one of the questions was the queuing onto T-Ticket Highway. I understand that there is space for 20 queues. However, other facilities that I've seen oftentimes exceed that queue space. So that's one question. Another question is how many staff people will be working each shift? How many shifts per day? And I think that it was going to be a 12-hour day. And where will the staff park? And during shift change, if in fact there is a shift change, where will the parking take place? Landscaping, the revised plan does show an increase to 24 trees, but I've got a couple of questions on the landscaping. One of them was semi-addressed, but how wide is the planting strip for these trees that are going to be planted? And what is going to be the spacing between the trees? More importantly, what is the expected time frame for the screening to become an effective solid screen? How tall will the screen eventually grow to? And will the plantings be irrigated? How will the drainage from the vehicular paved surfaces be controlled so as to not create salt damage to these plantings? And very important, in the wintertime, where is the snow going to be plowed and stored so as to not damage plantings from the salt and any other surface residue? The last point that we had was the inside dryer, the blower of the dryer, and how is that going to meet OSHA requirements? And I believe the answer I heard was 84 decibels is, I believe, the OSHA requirement. But I also believe that that includes a silencer package on that dryer. So my question would be, does that 84 decibel limit, is that as a result of a silencer package? I may not be using the correct terminology, but in order to bring it down to that level, that would be my question. And that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want one point of clarification as to the lot coverage. So the existing lot coverage today, with the building as it exists on the ground today, is 7.4%. As they initially proposed under the old plan, it was proposed building was 13.5%. So what they're proposing now is 12.3%. So it's a decrease from what they initially proposed, but still an increase from existing conditions. That was it.
Yes, ma'am.
Virginia Valiela. I'm on the board of directors of the 300 Committee, and I'm authorized to speak. And I want to continue the conversation about the landscaping and make several points. I'm going to talk both about the trees and about the stockade fence. The 300 Committee borders this property on the east side and the north side. On the east side, we have a row of mature trees that is about 20 feet wide. The trees themselves are 15 to 20 feet tall. And so this area is very thoroughly screened. Anything that's planted along here will be in the shade. And secondly, it will have almost no water if it's not irrigated on a continual basis. So most of the trees planted here are just going to fail. Whereas on the north side, and I should point out that this is 134 feet. This is 180 feet. The north side is the area that needs the trees. And so I think that if you remove these trees in this landscaping, it gives you a little more square footage to play with if you want to change down here, and it puts the trees where they would be useful over here. The second thing I want to point out is about the stockade fence. There is an existing stockade fence on their property right here on the property line, and it's in reasonably good condition. And so we would request that that be left. It's good for litter control. It clearly defines properties. And it doesn't disturb anything that, as I said, this is fully wooded on this side. The stockade fence, which we appreciate being stated tonight by Attorney Clower, that is on our property is on the north side. And they have said that they would remove that and replace it on their own property, and that is definitely our request. I think the 300 Committee is opposed to this project. We feel it does not fit the character of the T-ticket area and what's trying to be achieved here. If you do approve it, we would ask that one of the conditions regarding these trees is that they specify what kind of tree, should be 6 feet tall, not a little dinky thing, and that they be required to monitor it and replace any tree that dies within 5 years, so that if the planting is not successful or they do not water them properly, that there is a way to follow through and correct all of those. I really believe that this strip along here is totally useless. The paving currently goes right up to the stockade fence and could just stay there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to make a comment tonight? Yes, sir.
My name is Leonard Johnson. I also am on the board of the 300 Committee, and as is the case for Virginia, I'm authorized to speak on behalf of the 300 Committee. I'd like to continue the conversation that has been started by Mr. Dugan about noise. There's vacuums outside, and now we learned that there's going to be some noise from the machinery on the inside of the building. The vacuums on the outside, there are 8 units. The decibels that we've been given are for 1 unit. Now, presumably you don't put in 8 units if you only expect to be running 1. So, and maybe they're not additive, but I do know from my own experience in my neighborhood that if you've got 1 leaf blower and you've got 3 leaf blowers is a heck of a lot noisier than 1 leaf blower. So I continue to be very concerned about the noise. Another issue is traffic, which Cheryl mentioned, and turning left onto T-Ticket Highway in that location is difficult. I know that because I've come out of the T-Ticket Park and tried to turn left, and it doesn't work very well. It's the most congested highway in town, as you know. There are 148 cars a day. Well, that means there are 300 trips in and out. Just to look at the number of cars doesn't give you the total impact on the traffic. So it's really for issues of noise and a number of other issues and traffic that we are opposed to this proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Thomas Stone. I'm the president of the board of the 300 Committee. And I would just add 1 or 2 comments about what's going on here. After I saw the plans for this, I went out and looked at, we have park benches on this very close to the northern and on the eastern edge. On the northern edge, there's a park bench that's about 50 feet away, and on the eastern side, there's a park bench that's less than 20 feet away. Those are set in concrete. I don't think they're really going to be usable once if this operation is begun. We would either have to move them, get them out of the concrete, and move them, or abandon them and not use them. The other thing, a point I'd make about the vacuums, it kind of depends on how high the stockade fence is. If the vacuums are 5 feet high, the stockade fence has to be higher than that. Otherwise, there'll be direct noise input. So I would advocate for like an 8-foot stockade fence if they're going to do this here. And final thing, of course, you all understand that the 300 Committee is obligated to protect our property there in perpetuity as a park, based on state and our own and town support as well, too. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Richard Stone, no relation, and I'm a neighbor. My property abuts the very back of T-Ticket Park. I have 2 concerns. One, as talked about already by people, is the traffic problem, because that is one of the busiest places. I pick up the trash in T-Ticket Park every week, so I'm always up against the front there, and traffic barely moves, no matter what time of day I come by. And the left turning, going clear back to the Burger King and right down to the Sandwich Road corner is just, the cars barely move, because all times of day, people are turning in and turning out, and this will add to that, and I think significantly add to it. So I'm really opposed to it on that basis. But the other thing that worries me here, and it may not even be a zoning board of appeals problem, but I wonder about the viability of the business itself. We already have an example on that piece of property of a business that wasn't properly capitalized, didn't have enough money to last out the initial phases until it became an established business and turned into a derelict property. And here we're going to make big modifications for water, wastewater, and so on, and it just bothers me that somewhere in the whole town planning process, we don't look at the business model and try to understand whether this is really a viable option for this piece of property. Or is it just somebody who has an idea to use a piece of property that happens to be there? So I want to object on the basis of the traffic, but also to point out that we really need to do a better job of deciding whether this property is going to be useful as it's now anticipated and as people are asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, Attorney Clower, would you like to respond to some of the public's concerns?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Hurry. I'm going to go through these in kind of bullet point order. In response to Ms. Williams' concerns, there is substantial drainage being proposed on site, both within the pavement areas, within the building, within the pavement area. That's all going to be a substantial improvement over the existing conditions. The existing conditions, the blacktop is very chewed up and prone to puddling, and we'll be looking at this with brand new eyes and grading it and engineering it appropriately to take advantage of the drainage that's being placed on the site. There will be 2 staff members on at any given time. The landscaping, as to the landscaping and the spacing of the trees, we would probably defer to a landscaper and would plant the appropriate number of trees that we've agreed to plant, but would want them spaced by someone who is engaged in that business and knows the appropriate spacing. The trees would be arborvitaes. They would be monitored because the applicant is going to have we're going to be putting a lot of effort, time, money, and effort into this property and isn't going to want to see dead trees on the site. So whether it's a condition of the decision or not, he's going to be monitoring the trees and addressing them appropriately. There's a lot of concern about the noise, and I understand that, but I think it's worth pointing out that the noise from the road is going to be louder than anything else generated on the site. The vacuums and even the blower are going to be much quieter than the leaf blowers. That's, I don't want to use that comparison because it's not even remotely fair. We talked about 148 trips, 148 cars, and said that was 148 trips in and out. It's 148 in and it's 148 out. It's not 396 trips. It's a cumulative 1 in, 1 out is 1 car. As to the noise, the trees and the fence will address much of this concern. The vacuum is placed 3 feet high. There will be sufficient blockage with a 6-foot fence. And again, with the traffic, it's hard to quantify exactly how much new traffic this will bring. A lot of these cars that will use this will already be on the road. You're not going to necessarily have all of these cars coming here specifically for the sake of doing a car wash. I mean, I can't speak for anyone else, but I know when I get my car washed, it's because I see a car wash and say, oh God, my car's really dirty. I should get it washed. And I have a few extra minutes. Very rarely do I leave my house saying, I'm going to go get my car washed. So I don't think it's fair to think that all of this traffic will be new traffic added to the site, added to the road. I think that the changes we've made address a lot of these concerns from the public. I think that the noise concerns, while valid, I think have been addressed, both with the information presented and what's been proposed as mitigation. And I'll be happy to address any questions you guys might have at this time.
Thank you, Attorney Clower. Does the board have any additional questions?
I just have a quick question just on the vacs. If I decide to use the site and just use the vacuums, so where do I pay? Is there a separate queue line for that? Or?
No, I mean, you'd come in and park in the vacuum.
But do you pay at the vacuums versus?
You'd pay at the vacuum.
All right, so when I come in, though, I have to go right, or can I?
No, you could go left.
Okay, so if I'm coming in that entrance and I go left, wouldn't I be cutting across the exiting traffic?
It's not a constant stream of exiting traffic. I mean, there will be cars coming out, which I think you could probably plan for as you drove up to it. There will be cars coming out, and it'll be within the same area, but I think it would.
It just seems like an odd traffic pattern, process on the site. If you're pulling in, you now have to cut across the cars that may be coming out and also trying to go in the same direction, or the exiting. I think
it's not a constant stream of cars coming out of the car wash, though. And I think that it's not as though there's 6, 7 cars coming out at once. There'll be one car, and sometime later, there'll be another car. and-
So when you pull in, as far as, I know we didn't get into signage or what the signage is.
We talked last time, there will be signage both on the building and on the island over this way. Or not in this thing, island isn't the right word.
So if I was coming in from the main entrance, would there be signage saying car wash to the right?
Car wash to the right.
And then
vacuums to the left.
backs either direction, or would you have to go to the left?
Well, I mean, you would go to the. You would
that's
go to
what I
the.
understand,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
if you went to the right, you'd be in the queue for the car wash. But there'll be signage to address that.
All right.
Okay, board discussion.
All right. Just a quick follow-up question, Kevin, regarding the staffing. Where would they park, and is there any sort of shift change involved?
I don't think we'd gotten as far as planning out shifts for the workers. The employee parking would be these spots up here.
Okay.
In all likelihood. And we'll also be putting in a bike rack per the
Great.
planning board's request. So that will be available as well. I don't, in terms of if there's a shift change, I suppose someone could park in a vacuum spot until someone left the other spot.
Okay. I think all the questions from the board have been addressed. I think it'd be appropriate to turn it over to board discussion. Does anyone want to start us off?
Sure. I'm in favor of the project. I think that Attorney Clower addresses when he references the noise issue, that's the Route 28 corridor. There's tractor trailers, there's traffic in general. It's laid out for economic activity. The odd thing is a scenic park in a Route 28 corridor. So I think that's what strikes me as more or less the oddball thing in this case. So, I mean, I think we need a car wash. I think it's a great idea, and I'm fully in favor of it.
Thank you, Paul. Would anyone else like to weigh in?
Well, as presented so far, I would be opposed. The traffic patterns to me just don't make any sense. I think you're creating more of a hazardous condition going in and out. I understand the curb cut is limited to size, but if the building shifted more to be centered on the curb cut, you're eliminating a lot of concerns with having to make a swerve. I didn't realize originally that if you pulled in, you could go left to use the VAX. I assume you had to go through one specific pattern. I think that makes it even worse. I know the decibels were shown in the plan. I would like to see some kind of a cumulative, what the decibel amount would be cumulatively for the 8 VAX. A little more details on the VAX. I'd like to know a little bit more about, I know some of it's wastewater, but the disposal maintenance plan or what's happening with the separator system. I couldn't find it in the file. It may be in there, and maybe it's something that I missed. The screening, either way, would be very important, specifically on the north side, that makes sense. And maybe if you eliminated that back greenway, you could adjust some of this other space so that you could still, do landscape coverage. I don't know how you do it, but it just seems that you're starting with a brand-new building on the site, and there would be a better way to position this. I've experienced that roadway all the time in and out. I know that there's an issue going left. I don't think there's much you can do with that unless you force the right turn lane, but at least you could try to change the traffic patterns and see what you could do with that curb cut mid-entrance.
I'll hop on to what Bob is saying. I agree, I'm not in favor of this project as it stands today. The lot coverage is 73.6%, and it's going to remain the same. I think if you're basically starting from scratch, you could bring that into compliance. There's been a lot of traffic and noise concerns, but yet there's no noise study or really traffic study being conducted. I understand it on paper looks like a minimal increase over what it's permitted for. However, everybody in town knows that it hasn't really been used to its full extent. I would like to see, I appreciate that each one is a 63 decibels per vacuum, but what is the cumulative impact? And could you knock down from 8 to 4? Or is there some other number that may be more palatable to the board? My biggest concern at the last hearing was screening and landscaping along the southern property edge because there's apartments back there, and that's the one area where there's been no increased screening. So, again, I would like to see more screening in that area. I think a right turn lane was something that I had written down. I think that makes sense, and maybe that gives some additional room for pervious surface, for an island to direct traffic, because I agree, I think the site just seems so tight for this use, and maybe it's just not a compatible use with the site. Another concern I have is that there's no kind of bailout lane or anything like that. Once you get into the queue, you're stuck in the queue. And I think that that could be a concern. A lot of times with these drive-throughs, there is some wiggle room, and I think it's probably better practice to have kind of a bailout area. But given how this is laid out on the site, I don't think that there's even an option for that. Those were kind of, I guess, my biggest concerns at this point. But I just don't see how you fix the conflict point at the front of the property unless you change the curb cuts. And so far, that hasn't been proposed, so.
Thank you, Kim.
I think we also have a bunch of unanswered questions for the wastewater superintendent. This information is still required to, based on our letter from today, right?
What letter today?
Or an email today.
I wasn't aware of an email today from.
Yeah, Ashley sent it to you.
Today?
We
From-
got it, yes. I got it probably around 1:30, 2 o'clock, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of it. I'm not saying it wasn't sent, I'm
It's
just
to
not
do
aware of
with
it.
the operation and the sewerage and how it's gonna be processed and all that.
Okay, so yeah,
I think we need to know more about that before we make any decision.
And just to reiterate from the other board members, I basically have the same concerns as Bob and Kim regarding the project as a whole. Not to go back into it again, because we're kind of up against the time limit here. But I just share their same concerns in terms of lot coverage, traffic, noise, the screening, and the water systems as well.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. What would you like to do?
Well, it sounds like we need more information. So,
When can we be back?
Well, you and I had discussed the 17th, but apparently this may take a little bit more time than what we discussed.
Well, that was for,
based
that
on-
was for a different,
What was that for? You have something else?
May 3rd. That was for Martha.
Oh, excuse me, I apologize. I had it marked as
No,
T-ticket.
because that'll require a continuance.
I don't have anything available in the very near future. You guys are absolutely booked on the 3rd and the 17th.
what about the 17th at 6, since Ken's not going to be here?
Well, I really believe this is gonna take a little bit more than a half hour, so what do you want to do? Do you wanna do it at 5:30?
You know I have difficulty
I mean, there's
getting
substantial
there.
information that you're requesting,
Yes,
and which you're going to review and discuss.
and we need to get it ahead of time.
I realize that, but I'm just
But we've
saying, do you
already
think a half
received-
hour is gonna be appropriate?
I may,
Oh.
I'm not sure, but I may not be available the 17th.
Okay, so,
Well, that blows that.
yeah.
The only thing I can do, oh, God.
Special meeting?
Yep, another meeting, which, oh, that's right, Ed's out on the 17th as well.
No, I'll be back by that day.
You will be back
Yeah.
on that date? The only thing I can do, unfortunately, is set another hearing date.
What about the 3rd?
No, we've got,
Is Lawrence Lynch gonna move forward that day?
yes,
Okay. Well, that one's been continued a few times.
it has. He had to wait for town
Okay,
meeting,
all
and
right.
it was shut down.
Okay.
So you've got 3 continuations, 2 of them quite large. You've got a new application that's going to take a while,
Oh, yeah.
and another one for the Captain Hamlin, so. I suggest a new hearing date, either the 24th or the 31st on May, which is not what I was looking forward to do, but hello.
24th.
Can we all make either date?
24th.
24th,
24th?
Paul?
I think so.
Attorney Clower, the
We know
24th?
where I
Okay.
stand.
I know, but we still need
I know.
the votes, so.
I think so.
Is the 24th okay with you, Attorney Clower?
That does work for me.
What time, 4 o'clock?
Yeah. But I can't make 5:30, I'm definitely not making 4 o'clock. What about 6?
6 on the 24th.
Could do 6. Everyone else, 6 o'clock?
6, good.
Which month?
May.
No.
What year?
No, that's, I'm
Welcome
Okay.
to my world.
This year.
Are you not going to be here?
That's the 6th?
The 24th of May.
Oh, the 24th of May, I'll be here for that.
Okay, thank you.
So I will move to continue application 518 to May 24th here in Town Hall at 6 PM.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, motion was made by Kim, second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Can't believe there's a letter in us, an email from Peter Freeman continuing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
What a surprise. Great.
Oh, they carried the book here for all that?
That's, I would see that if I wasn't.
I tried to let as many people as I could know.
Well done.
Wonderful.
Give me back my
Right.
camera. Yeah, right. No, you.
All right, you ready, TJ?
Let's go.
Okay, so,
Oh, you.
yeah,
I guess.
I'm back.
I wouldn't be yelling. I was yelling at TJ.
So moving on, we have an additional continuation now, which is 090-17 Helmuth Circle LLC, which is a comprehensive permit, 40B permit. And I guess there has been a request by the applicant to continue this because we're waiting for a, can we have order, please? They're waiting for a Conservation Commission ruling, so,
Well, they, Conservation actually, I found out today, continued them until May something. I can't remember, I
Okay.
apologize, so.
but the point is, we don't have the
No.
necessary information from Conservation yet, so they've requested that we continue this. Is June 7th the date?
June 7th is the date I'm asking the board to vote on.
Okay.
And those members that are on that, could you please look at your calendars, please?
Yep, so that's myself, TJ, Kim, Ed, and
Regular voting members. Paul,
Paul.
Not a problem.
June 7th, everyone?
Yeah.
I'll be here.
Yep.
Okay, what time would you like to continue it to?
What's going on June 7th? Anything else?
Yes, June 7th, we have, I put tentative this, and you have so far 2 other applications. There may be a third on this date.
So do you want to say, you would like to say 6?
I would rather you say 4, but that doesn't happen, does it?
No.
Is 6 okay with the board, or I put on this tentative 5:30? But if it's too early, just let
6.
me know, please.
I think Kim would prefer 6, and I would prefer
6?
6.
I like 6.
So,
Just tight.
I can get to the gym.
okay, so can we get a motion to that effect?
I will move
That's what I
that-
care about.
That we continue application 9017 Helmuth Circle LLC to 6 PM, June 7th, 2018, here in Town Hall.
Second.
Okay, moved by Kim, seconded by Ed, that was. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I will remind the board, this will require a waiver that I've spoken to Attorney Freeman about, because we will pass the 180 days as required under the regulations, so,
But you have no reason to think he's not going to grant it.
no, we have talked. He is going to. I don't know how long I'll be able to extend it for. I'm hoping 45 days.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. So now we come to new hearings, and the first new hearing of the night, which is an annual event, is 009-18, Barnstable County Agricultural Society, which is to continue their special permit, or renew their special permit to allow non-agricultural events associated with parking for a fee. Kim, do you have an announcement?
Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Barnstable County Agricultural Society, Inc. of East Falmouth, Massachusetts, applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Sections 240-38, 240-109A, 240-109B, 240-160, and 240-18 of the Code of Falmouth to allow non-agricultural events with associated parking and parking for a fee on subject property known as 1220 Nathan S. Ellis Highway, East Falmouth, Massachusetts. For referrals, Marine and Environmental Services, there's no comment. Planning, there's no comment. Assessors, there is no comment, although, no, except there's no comment. Water, there is no comment. And did you want me?
No correspondence.
Okay, no correspondence.
Okay. So-
Mr. Sylvia is present.
Okay.
On behalf of Wendy Brown to review this.
Mr. Sylvia?
My name is Robert Sylvia. I live on Mary Rose Lane, East Falmouth. If you have any questions, I'll see if I can answer them for you.
Okay.
I think everything here is the same as we had last year. Only thing new is
There's no Scarlet Fest this year.
no Scholar Fest. Yeah, they're gonna have, instead of the Scholar Fest, we're gonna have a Harvest Fest like we had years ago. And they're gonna combine with Christian, is there, I can find it. With a Christian concert.
Right.
When is that?
That's gonna be 9/13.
Okay, let's see if anyone on the board has concerns or questions regarding
No questions.
your
No questions.
None.
site.
All the events are listed in the file, and
Right.
she may add one or two more, and some of them I administratively approve. The major ones with alcohol and parking issues I bring to the board. So,
And there weren't any notable issues last year?
there were no complaints, no issues.
Okay.
Oh, there's one more thing, we're having a Boy Scouts back
Right.
again.
Right.
So,
Nice.
Okay. All right, let's just see if anyone in the,
I have a quick question.
sure.
Last couple of years, I believe there's been a more concerted effort with your organization in the town in terms of assisting organizations with obtaining permits from the town. I assume that's still the same and everything's going good there?
yes, it is.
All right.
Let's see if anyone in the public has any questions regarding use of the Barnstable County Fairgrounds. Okay, if nobody has any questions and the board is satisfied,
I will move to close.
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye. And I will move that we approve application 918, I guess as containing the findings and conditions that we usually have, and that you can have, that you can administratively approve and all that good stuff.
I'll second.
Okay, and no further board discussion, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
And aye.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Sylvia.
Off
Thank
you
you.
go, yep. So our next hearing, new hearing, is 014-18 Steel, 94 Gifford Street in Falmouth, which is a special permit to increase existing office space for a home occupation in a barn.
Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Amy H. and Eric M. Steele of Falmouth, Massachusetts applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to Section 248-162A through F of the Code of Falmouth to expand expand the existing office area and create a bathroom for a home occupation within the existing barn structure on subject property known as 94 Gifford Street, Falmouth, Massachusetts. For referrals, Concom had no comment. Engineering had its standard comment. Water is proposed home occupation and bathroom attached to home. If not, requires new water service application and plan to water department. Fire department had no comment. Assessors had no comment. And planning had no comment.
Okay.
Jason Swain, 149 Percival Road, T-Ticket. I represent Abe and Eric Steele at 94 Gifford Street. I'd like to request a special permit 240-162AF to expand an existing office area with a bathroom in their existing barn, which is behind their residence, built around the 1900s, for a total of 653 square feet, or 27.14 of their habitable living space, to accommodate Eric's business, Steele Associates, which he does hydrographic surveying and marine consulting. The office will see no visitors, employees, or clients for Steele Associates. The additional heated space will be used for a workshop for configuring computer systems and electronics such as data loggers, sensors, and GPS monitors to be used in the field. He will also be doing standard office-related tasks such as data processing and writing reports. There will be no need for storage materials or equipment outside. No equipment will be used to create additional noise outside of your typical home noises. No fumes, odors, or electrical interferences will be created. There will also be no need for any signs. There will be no alterations or changes to any right-of-ways or increased traffic, and we will also apply with the water department for a new water line.
Okay. I think you got it pretty well covered there. Let's see if there were any questions from the board.
Yeah, I noticed there, I know you have two temporary storage containers on the site. I just want to know how long they'd be there, or what they were used
As
for.
soon as we're done with the project, we'll empty them out and get rid of them.
That's all I have.
No questions, no comments.
Anything? Kim, anything?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay. TJ?
The barn itself's remaining the same size. It's the actual office space within it that's
Correct.
expanding. Thank you.
And there's a second floor.
Yes.
How, is that use changing?
No.
And what is that use currently?
It's just, right now, it's just an open floor. He'll use it for storage.
Okay. So really, the only real alteration is the addition of the bathroom.
Correct.
And that's getting tied into the septic, I assume?
Yes.
Is the location shown of the septic on the site plan? I don't see it.
No, it's kind of looking at the barn to the left.
So is that is the septic that serves the house as well?
Correct.
But I guess you're not adding a bedroom, so you don't need to go to Board of Health, right?
Right, doesn't meet the criteria either, because he's opening up a little bit of space and adding a bathroom. Yeah, he's gonna add a bedroom. No, a bathroom. Sorry, Nathan. It's a beautiful barn.
It's nice.
Okay. Okay, I think the board has a good idea of the project. No further questions from the board.
Let me just, sorry. So you said no visitors, employees, or clients?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So product, he just goes off and,
Yeah, everything's done out in the field.
right. Okay, anybody in the public want to comment on this or have a question about it? Okay. What's the pleasure of the board? If we have enough information, which it sounds like maybe we do,
Yeah.
we could move forward.
Motion to close?
Okay.
Second.
So TJ and Ed move to close. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. And And then do we have a motion to approve
Anyone?
from someone? Kim?
I always do that.
I know, because you're so good at it.
I will move that we approve application 1418.
Okay, and we
This
need a
is the easy
second.
part, guys.
I'll second that.
Okay, so that's,
Okay.
that's,
So, findings and conditions, findings are just going to be that they satisfy 240, 162A through F. And Sri can make specific findings for each of those prongs, but I think it was 24%, was the home occupation space.
24.7, yes.
Okay.
27.1.
Oh, okay, I wrote it down incorrectly. That no visitors, employees, clients, that most of the work's done off-site, no signage, that they're addressing the water department referral. It's really to increase, utilization for the homeowner and the addition of the bathroom.
no bedroom being created.
Yeah, no bedroom being created.
Okay.
Conditions would be per plans.
Yep.
And, no bedroom created. And do we need to condition the water?
No,
Whatever,
I think
yeah.
just a finding.
Okay.
You can't enforce that. That's
Right.
something that they have to do, and he has to get a sign off prior to anyway.
Okay.
Should you do a finding that the, they
All
stated
right,
the
so we
storage
have,
containers would be removed,
Oh, yes,
Post-construction.
post-construction?
yes. Removal of the containers.
okay, so that's another condition, I guess.
And, yeah, and a condition.
And so we have a motion with findings and conditions. All in favor?
Aye.
And aye. Off you go.
Thank you, Nathan.
All right.
It's like a,
The rest of this meeting is going to be shockingly easy.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
Jinx it.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh, for you? See ya. That's unfair.
So the next, next one here is 016-18, which is the Captain Hamlin House, 606 West Falmouth Highway, and that's a modification of a special permit to allow a shed, but I guess we have a letter requesting a continuance to May 3rd.
Their representative can't make it. Kimberly over here.
Yes, dear Sri, please accept this email as a request to continue the hearing for the above referenced project from April 19th, 2018 to May 3rd, 2018. Thank you. And I will move that we continue to May 3rd, 2018, application 1618 at 6:30 here in Town Hall.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then the,
Can we take a break?
yes, would you like to take a short recess? Short recess.
Okay, we are back from our recess. Up next, we have application 15-18, Habitat for Humanity.
Being all persons deemed affected by the Board of Appeals under Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the Massachusetts General Laws, you are hereby notified that Habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod, Inc. of Yarmouthport, Massachusetts, applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a comprehensive permit pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40B, Sections 20 through 23, and 760 CMR 56 to construct 12 detached single-family dwellings on subject property known as 0 Barrows Road, East Falmouth, Massachusetts. And for referrals, we received a letter from the Community Preservation Committee which stated that it has no comment on the application. Cape Cod Commission submitted a letter on March 23rd, 2018. Engineering submitted a review letter, which is in the file. Falmouth Fire Rescue Department submitted a letter. I have reviewed the plans in the Board of Appeals office, and the Falmouth Fire Rescue Department is not opposed to the project, although we have a few concerns. We require, per the Massachusetts Fire Code, an unobstructed road width throughout the development of at least 20 feet. We require, per the Massachusetts Fire Code, a minimum inside turning radius of 25 feet. The plans show one fire hydrant at the back of the development. We will require a second fire hydrant at the entrance of the development in the center at the Y. And then we received correspondence from the Department of Public Works, Water Division, laying out some comments relative to water main, water service, and that type of stuff. We received 2 letters with concerns as well.
Okay, and just for the record, our chairman, Ken Foreman, has recused himself from this application, so that means Bob Dugan, as the alternate member, will be sitting on this application. And also, 40Bs are done a little differently from other applications that we usually hear. And that means that our zoning administrator, Sari Boudreau, usually sits through a meeting with other various town departments, and they review the project. And it's my understanding that meeting was complete. And Sari, would you like to update us in regard to that meeting?
The application is complete according to the regulations under the 760 CMR as stated by Kimberly. As required, I did hold a meeting with, for technical review with departments. The letter from engineering sums up, and the developer also, and their representative was present. Both water and engineering sum up the discussion and concerns they had at the meeting. And Attorney Brody has copies of them.
Okay. I believe we're all set to go. For the applicant?
For the applicant, my name is Warren Brody. I'm an attorney representing Habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod, Inc. And with me tonight are Griffin Ryder of VHB Engineering, the engineer for the project, Bob Riley, the director of construction of Habitat, and Marianne Mills Lassiter, who is the family programs manager at Habitat. Unfortunately, Victoria Goldsmith, our executive director, would have been here, but she is sick in bed. But she is certainly interested in what's going on. The hearing tonight is on Habitat's application for a comprehensive permit under Mass General Laws, Chapter 40B. Habitat proposes to build a neighborhood of 12 new, affordable, single-family homes on approximately 5.5 acres of land located on Barrows Road in East Falmouth. The parcel, which is the subject of a purchase and sale agreement between Habitat and the current owner, is currently vacant. It is mostly level. It is mostly cleared. It is located in an area of single-family houses. In your application packages, and I hope you each have one, you will find the application itself, which is at Exhibit Tab A. At Exhibit Tab B are the site plans, including details of construction of various elements of the site. At Exhibit C is a landscape plan, and there are architectural plans at Exhibit D. At Exhibit E you will find a map of the location, GIS site maps, coastal pond and zone 2 map, and aerial photographs. To continue going through the packet, I would like to do that. Exhibit F is the site eligibility letter issued for this project by the Department of Housing and Community Development, or DHCD. The site eligibility letter establishes that the proposed project appears eligible under the requirements of the Local Initiative Program, which is the program that we are proceeding under, that the site is appropriate for residential development, and that the plan appears to be financially feasible. Exhibit G is a letter from Habitat, Habitat for Humanity International and the Internal Revenue Service, establishing that Habitat Cape Cod is an affiliate of Habitat for Humanity International and is a 501c3 organization. At Exhibit H, you will find a certificate of good standing issued by the Massachusetts Secretary of State's office. Exhibit I is the purchase and sale agreement with the current owner. And you may note that the purchase price, as stated at $449,000, is not the current purchase price. That price has been reduced to $340,000, which is the appraised value of the property if it had to conform to current zoning. We could not exceed this as of right appraised value, as we are using community preservation funds for the purchase of the property, as well as for a performance bond premium that we are required to provide by CPC. In addition to approval by the subsidizing agency, in this case DHCD, Habitat is required to demonstrate that the development is consistent with local needs, which quite frankly is simply a function of the percentage of affordable housing units in the town. If you look at Exhibit J, that is the subsidized housing inventory for December 5th, 2014, at which time Falmouth had 963 units of affordable housing out of its 14,870 year-round units, excuse me, or 6.5%. There's actually a more recent subsidized housing inventory dated September 14th, 2017, and the number of affordable units actually declined from 963 to 959 over that period, or to 6.4%. Exhibit K gives you a list of those communities that have housing production plans that have met their numerical goals this year. Unfortunately, Falmouth is not on that list. The threshold for a 40B application is 10% affordable housing inventory, and as Falmouth is at 6.4%, under 10%, this development is presumed to be consistent with local needs. Exhibit L in your package is a template for a local initiative program regulatory agreement and declaration of restrictive covenants, which includes the affordable housing deed rider that will make these units affordable in perpetuity. Moving along, Exhibit M is a preliminary pro forma. It was done some time ago, but the figures are still valid. Exhibit N is the report of a Phase 1 environmental site assessment by Bennett Environmental Associates of Brewster, which revealed no RECs on the property, that is, recognized environmental conditions. There are none of those. Exhibit O is the report of a transportation impact assessment that was conducted by Vanass and Associates, Inc. I would refer you to the summary on the final page, which contains some specific recommendations, which Habitat is prepared to follow, by the way, and concludes that with implementation of those recommendations, safe and efficient access can be provided to the project site, and the project site can be accommodated within the confines of the existing transportation infrastructure. Exhibit P is a landscape narrative which is submitted in accordance with zoning bylaw section 119 and should be viewed in conjunction with the landscape plan which is at Exhibit C. Exhibit Q is a summary of the developer's experience and the development team. Over the last 30 years, we have built over 115 homes. I think it's actually around 120 throughout the Cape, including the Glenwood Avenue duplex around the corner from here, and in years past, houses on Sippawisset Road and Sam Turner Road, and maybe some others that I haven't listed. There is a list of our recent and current projects at the end of tab Q. If there is any concern about Habitat's ability to construct a project of this size, I would point to the Tubman Road project in Brewster, which is a 14-unit project being built currently in 2 phases. Not too long ago, we developed the Gomes Way project in Harwich, which was 14 units also. And several years before that, well, let's not get into ancient history. Exhibit R contains letters of support from the Board of Selectmen and also the Planning Board, which was at the time sitting as the local housing partnership for the purposes of our LIP application. Exhibit S shows our current pricing model. You may note the sales price is shown. That is, for the 2-bedroom house, $131,750. For the 3-bedroom house, $147,500. Those prices may change slightly due to HUD calculations of median income and whatever formulas they apply to it, but they'll be roughly that amount. Exhibit T contains marketing and lottery information. The issue of local preference often comes up, and the short answer to whether there will be a local preference is that it is up to DHCD, which can approve a local preference of up to 70% of the units, which in this case would be 8 out of the 12 houses. We have never been refused a local preference request by DHCD, and we have also found that even those units that do not have a local preference often end up being purchased by local buyers. Exhibit U shows lot dimensions and tabulations of proposed buildings. You will note that the 2-bedroom houses contain 972 square feet. The 3 bedrooms are 1,200 square feet, and both of those numbers meet DHCD standards. Finally, Exhibit V, the last exhibit, is a list of waivers being requested from the zoning bylaw, from subdivision regulations, and fees. Subsequent to the filing of the application, as Ms. Boudreau indicated, there was a departmental meeting held in this building, and it generated feedback from various departments. In response to the feedback, we revised our site plans, and we have provided revised plans to you. I assume those have been distributed. The revisions included revision of the intersection of the project roadway at the Barrows Road intersection. Also revision of the drainage structures, that is relocation of drainage structures in that, in that general area. And also the addition of a hydrant in response to the concern that was expressed. The DPW Engineering Division has reviewed the revised plans as reflected in the letter from Scott Schluter, staff engineer, dated April 2nd. And since that initial filing, we've also provided stormwater runoff calculations, a draft declaration of trust for a homeowners association, and a draft declaration of restrictive covenants. Here's what we want to do. We are proposing 12 single-family housing lots. They range in size, I don't know if this is kind of a small scale, but they range in size from 9,741 square feet to 18,163 square feet. with an average size of over 13,000 square feet. It's a bit under a third of an acre. The neighborhood also includes a subdivision loop road, which we propose to name as Willett Way, W-I-L-L-E-T-T. There's some common land in the center of the loop, which we have designated as a play area, and there are small open space areas both at the very front of the neighborhood, at the Barrows Road entrance, and at the rear of the development. The underlining zoning is agricultural A, which has a minimum lot size for this zone is 45,000 square feet. Minimum frontage required is 100 feet. Lot width is 150 feet. Front yard setback is 25 feet. Side and rear yard setbacks are 10 feet. There are 6 lots that have less than the 25-foot front yard setback. There is only 1 side yard setback waiver requested. There are no rear yard setback waivers requested. There are no building coverage waivers requested. There are no height waivers requested. Mostly, we are seeking waivers for minimum lot size, lot width, and frontage. And again, I'd refer you to Exhibit V for the list of the specific waivers being requested. Now, the existing neighborhood to the west in that area these are predominantly large acre-plus size lots. The existing neighborhood to the east, including Leonard Drive, contains lots averaging about 10,200 square feet, or less than a quarter acre, quite a bit smaller than the 13,000 plus average for the ones that we are proposing. There is a 7+ acre lot directly to the north or the rear of the property. No portion of the site is within a water resources protection district. No portion of the site is in a Zone 2 wellhead protection area. The site is not an area of critical environmental concern. The site is not in a district of critical planning concern under Cape Cod Commission regulations. There are no wildlife corridors on the site. The site is not mapped as a Massachusetts Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Priority Habitat. The site is not in a FEMA Special Flood Hazard Area or Velocity Zone. The site is, however, in a coastal pond overlay district. In that regard, the Cape Cod Commission, by Patty Daly, Deputy Director, sent a letter dated March 23rd, 2018, which Ms. Boudreau referred to, noting that the project is in a coastal zone overlay district contributing to the Childs River. She also noted, without objection, the proposed use of individual Title V septic systems. Her letter encourages the reduction of impervious areas and water quality treatment of storm water runoff, which is actually part of our design. I would refer you to sheet C6 of our site plans, which shows details of the water treatment system. The site has access to electrical and to town water. The septic systems will meet or exceed Title V requirements and will conform to all Town of Falmouth Board of Health requirements. Willett Way will not be a public road, it will be a private way, although we are told that the town will provide snow removal and trash pickup. The maintenance of the way and the other common areas of the development, and the utilities under the roadway, will be the responsibility of a homeowners association, of which Habitat will be a non-voting member for at least 20 years. Assuming that the comprehensive permit is issued, Habitat will proceed to select purchasers for each unit in accordance with our established practices at a sale price that is consistent with DHCD's LIP program and affirmative fair marketing requirements. Habitat's goal is to select families whose income is no more than 65% of the median income of Barnstable County and to otherwise meet Habitat's selection criteria. The ultimate selection is done by a lottery approved by DHCD. And as I mentioned before, we will request DHCD to approve a preference in the lottery for local residents to the fullest extent possible. We plan to use our tried and true sweat equity model to build these houses. With this model, our purchaser families will partner with Habitat and invest 250 hours for each adult family member building their homes alongside community volunteers. This promotes homeowners who are well educated on building and maintenance and fosters a true sense of community. Habitat works closely with our buyers, not just through a rigorous application process, and it is rigorous, but throughout the construction period, providing significant homeowner education, including preparation for the closing, budget counseling, and workshops in caring for their home and their landscaping. Sweat equity and pre-purchase workshops have proven to be key elements in fostering successful home ownership. Habitat also partners with our communities, seeking donations of materials, professional services, and labor. We strive to make our homes welcome in a neighborhood and to be good neighbors. Habitat works to create a collaborative spirit where a whole community can be actively involved in helping to address the affordable housing crisis on Cape Cod. All 12 homes will be affordable in perpetuity. Habitat offers 100% of the project as affordable, not simply the 25% minimum that's required by law, because affordable housing is what we do. Affordability will be protected by the DHCD LIP deed rider and the regulatory agreement. Again, you can look at Exhibit L. And the homes will also be counted on Falmouth's subsidized housing inventory. As I said, the homes will be affordable to very low-income households earning at or less than 65% of area median income. Our model actually goes to 40% of area median income. The price is, again, $131,750 for the two-bedroom, $147,500 for the three-bedroom, which may change somewhat. And again, Exhibit S shows you our affordable pricing model. With quality, desirable, single-family homes priced affordably, Habitat for Humanity creates home ownership opportunities for families at income levels not served by other affordability programs. We are experienced. We've done it 120 times before since our founding in 1988. We are currently at or near active home construction on 13 homes, 15 homes, sorry. And we have a pipeline currently of about 40 homes, more than 40 in pre-development and feasibility study. And again, you can look at Exhibit Q for our development team and developer experience. Habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod works in partnership with families in need to build homes, hope, lives, and community. That's our mission statement. Now, we request that there be findings made, and these are required by the 40B regulations of 760 CMR, section 56.04, subparagraph 4. We would ask that you make the following findings. Under 56.044A through E, we ask that you find that the proposed Willett Way project is eligible under the DHCD Local Initiative Program, as evidenced by the project eligibility letter attached as Exhibit F, that the site is generally appropriate, the project design is generally appropriate, the project appears financially feasible, and DHCD, in the role of subsidizing agency, has reviewed our pro formas and found them to be financially feasible. Under 760 CMR 56044F, we ask that you find that Habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod, Inc. is a nonprofit and a 501c3 organization. And again, refer you to Exhibit G for the IRS, excuse me, IRS letter of determination, and Exhibit H relative to our good standing in the Commonwealth. Under 56.044G, we ask that you find that Habitat has control of the site. I refer you again to Exhibit I, which is the purchase and sale agreement. A zoning board of appeals comprehensive permit can be denied, or the denial can be upheld if certain statutory minima are met. We ask that you find that Falmouth has not met these minima and should therefore grant the permit as requested, as consistent with local needs. Falmouth has not met the 10% goal set forth in 40B. You're only at 6.4%. There is no claim that Falmouth has met either the land area minima as listed in 760 CMR 56.03. Falmouth is not listed on the DHCD's certified community list as being in conformance with an approved housing production plan. There is no claim that Falmouth has made recent progress towards a statutory minima in accordance with 760 CMR 56035. Also request that you find that the Willett Way project at 12 units is not a large project as defined in the 40B regulations.
Attorney Brody, would you mind submitting those requested findings to the board for the record?
Those are standard findings that you'll find in the first 3 findings of our 40B comprehensive permit decisions.
Anything to help the process?
Okay. And the final request for a finding is that Willett Way, this project is not a related application previously received as defined in the regulations. This is a standalone application. So, we respectfully request approval of our Willett Way project as submitted. As a local initiative program application, this project has been endorsed by both the selectmen and by the planning board, sitting as the Affordable Housing Committee. And again, look at Exhibit R for those support letters. Habitat has received community preservation funding via committee vote and also town meeting approval for funds to purchase the property, and we are prepared to move forward. I would ask for your vote of approval. And I am sure you have questions, and please feel free to ask them, and I will try to answer them or direct them to someone who can.
Okay, I'm sure we do have a few questions, and thank you for the introduction to the project. Turn it over to board questions now. Bob, do you want to start us off?
Just on the fire department referral, could you just respond to the road width and turn radius issues?
I'm going to defer to Griffin Ryder, although I know the roadway is 40 feet wide, but, excuse me, 20 feet wide.
20.
40 would be good.
For the record, I'm Griffin Ryder with VHB, site civil engineer, project manager for the project. The roadway is 20 feet wide. I guess the question might have been where the curb sat within the roadway. The roadway is 20 feet wide and the curb sits outside of that. And that's been clarified on our details. A hydrant has been added to the front of the property, so there are 2 hydrants. And then also, I think it was the water department, actually maybe more of a water department comment, but there's also an easement that's been added for future water department connection.
Any screening proposed, or what types of fencing screening?
There's some screening proposed in the landscape plan, and I believe that shows some screening, some tree screening along the driveway through here.
That's all I have for now.
I don't have any for now.
Okay, well, I have a page, so I'll make up for everybody. On-site lighting. Is there any proposed?
This issue has come up in the departmental meeting, also in discussions. There is a street light on the opposite side of Barrows at about the entrance that we propose. Beyond that, we're amenable to individual lamppost type lights. We would include those with each residence. But we're wary of extensive site lighting. We think people generally don't want a lot of bright lights around. And where they have control over their individual lamppost gives them what they want in that control.
Okay, so when you say control, do you mean you would include those in the initial build-out, or would it just be, you would include those?
Those would be included in the initial build-out, yes. We would certainly accept that as a condition.
Okay. Any consideration given to a school bus stop or something? We usually like to see a a little, what's it called? What are those things called?
Shel-
Yeah,
shelter.
shelter. Any consideration for that at the front of the property?
I don't know the history of shelters in Falmouth. Certainly, we could provide a paved area.
Ask for
where
some
people-
decorum in the room, please. Thank you.
An area where students could wait for a bus. Sorry. We are wary of shelters as places that promote criminal activity, frankly.
Okay, so your suggestion would be just a paved area at the front?
Yes.
I know that there were some comments submitted about, suggesting reduction of impervious surface. Were any changes made to that?
No. No, we've considered changing the driveways into, there are surface material, or materials that can be used to create some amount of permeability. They're very expensive and not very effective. Plus, our design keeps every drop of water on this project site. There's no water coming off the site. Some of the driveways pitch away from the roadway, so they would end up putting water basically on the grass in the woods.
Okay, so is there any treatment for the stormwater runoff?
Yes, as I mentioned, if you look at page 6, C6 of the site plans, there's a detail on the bottom. The system is an ADS StormTech SC740 system that has multiple isolation chambers and is good for 25 years.
Yes.
And that treats the stormwater coming off, the majority of the stormwater coming off the front of the site.
And you said that the roadway is going to remain private?
Yes, that's at the town's insistence. Because it won't meet all of the town requirements, frankly.
Right.
Yes.
So for the private roadway, the maintenance would be done by the homeowners association?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a trust, you said, or is it just a?
It is a trust.
Okay. And would each homeowner be required to contribute common area expenses?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any type of, I guess we're too far out to consider what those contributions would be at this point?
Yeah, well, they haven't been calculated,
Yeah.
but if you look at the, both the declaration of trust and the covenants, we've done this many times. We have learned from our experience and how to handle it. We insist that all of our homeowners associations use professional managers, so we don't have residents trying to collect dues from residents. You can imagine that kind of tension. And
I'm
it
a
works.
condominium attorney, so I can't imagine that kind of tension. All right. Professional managers. Okay. All right. So in terms of maintenance, it would be the roadway. Would it be landscaping, or that would be to each individual homeowner?
Landscaping only of the play area in the middle of the cul-de-sac. But there's also a provision that if a homeowner doesn't maintain, then the homeowners association has the right to go in there after notice.
And you mentioned the play area in the center of the cul-de-sac. Is there any proposed kind of buildup of that, or is it just grass?
Just grass.
Okay, so no swing set or anything like that?
Nope, nothing like that. Has been proposed. Could it happen? I suppose it could. If the trustees wanted it, if the residents wanted it.
No trees or anything in that area?
That's a good question. Look at the landscape plan. No, there are no trees in that area. The trees are on the other side of the street. It's basically a street tree for each lot.
Yeah, I saw in one of the referrals, I guess from the town engineer, that something about the street trees, it does not still does not comply with section 305-40. Do you know what that's referring to?
I don't.
Okay.
I can look it up.
Okay.
But we do provide for street trees every lot, foundation plantings every lot, and screening at the front on the right-hand side
Okay.
with evergreens.
Any visitor parking other than the driveways of each lot?
No, and no overnight parking on the roadway.
Okay. And that's in the condo docs
Yes.
or declaration?
Yeah, and there are other various,
Covenants.
no storage of commercial vehicles, unregistered vehicles, recreational, whatever. There are a number of proposed rules and regulations that are in the materials that you have.
Okay.
Again, kind of evolved over time. But it is an ownership project. These are ownership lots. We're not creating, a town rental community. So the regulation may be less than you'd expect in some other developments. I don't know. But still, trash has to be hidden, clotheslines in the back of the house only.
Okay.
Various common sense rules.
Sidewalk, I saw that there's not one proposed.
There is not, we asked for a waiver, asking for a waiver of that.
Is that just due to site limitations?
You want to address that, Bob?
I would say so, yes.
Site limitations? Yes.
I think, well, we'll talk about that, okay. Mail, is it proposed for each individual lot, or is there going to be like a central receptacle?
We haven't decided that, whether there'd be a kiosk or individual mailboxes. I'm not sure what the post office would want, or whether they care about the difference.
You said snow removal and trash pickup by the town.
Yes, that's what we are told.
So it says some of these driveways are right up against the lot lines.
That's what they look like. In practice, I think we usually don't get that close to the lot lines. Do you agree, Bob?
No, we try to stay away from the lot lines as much as we can.
If you'd like to give testimony, if you could please come
right
up to the podium, give your name
Come
for the
right
record.
up and
Thank
who
you.
are and-
Hi, I'm Bob Riley, Director of Construction. We tried to give good delineation between the different lots so that we try at the very least to get about 4 feet between the lots. So wherever the lot line is, try not to put the driveway within 2 feet of that lot line if at all possible, so that there's room there for, in the future, if they want to do some plantings and put them in there, just to, or a split rail fence of some sort, just to delineate one lot from the other, as opposed to putting them right together like that.
Okay, but there's no planting proposed or fencing in between those side yards right now?
No, not right now, no.
And you indicate Habitat will be a non-voting member of the trust for 20 years. Will they continue to own any property here?
No, the common areas will be deeded to the homeowners association on the sale of the last lot.
Okay. Is there any case law or anything that you could submit just that says that a non-owner could maintain even a non-voting role or membership role on a trust?
I'm not aware of any.
Could you see if you
it'd
could
be help-
research it?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay.
I mean, the purpose of participating is, just to provide the expertise for people who are generally first-time homeowners who.
I'm not suggesting that the purpose is wrong. I'm just questioning whether it's permissible. Okay, phasing. Oh, so you mentioned that the homeowners are involved in the build-out of the project. Is there kind of a construction timeline or a phasing to this project at all?
There probably will be. I didn't mention it, and I didn't, it's not in the narrative. It would make probably the most sense to build it in 2 phases. And there are 2 reasons for that. One is that it's the easiest way to do it. So we'd probably build the 6 houses on the east side of the road first, and the west side second, completing the loop road as needed. The other reason for doing that, other than ease, is that our agreement with the CPC is that we will construct the first 6 units within 4 years of taking title to the property, and we have 1 additional year to complete the rest, although we can request extensions. That's our agreement with CPC.
Is there any restriction, it may be in the documents, on rental?
Oh, absolutely.
So-
Yes, if you look at the the D
Yeah.
rider, that has extensive, you can't lease them. You can't rent them, you can't lease them. And if you do, the money is not yours, put it that way. That's the part of the standard deed rider language, and it's in the covenants as well.
Okay. And you was it solar panels I saw on top of the houses?
We're hoping,
Some of the
we
graphics.
can't promise that. Our experience with solar has been great. Frankly, we're getting towards net zero on some of our houses, which you think about how that adds to affordability. So we will put solar panels on these if we can, and it looks like we can so far.
Okay, and then the last question I have for the time being, height of the structures, that might have been.
They're just, these are ranches.
Yeah, so what's the proposed height?
I don't even think they're 20. I saw it in here someplace.
Oh, I was looking.
There are architecturals at tab D.
Yeah, I saw the architectural, I just was maybe missing it. Which I didn't know
This height is 17.
Oh, I see,
and
17.
8 feet, about 2
Yeah.
feet and 5 inches.
I just missed it, thank you.
I assume that's from top foundation.
It's going to be from mean grade, from the street.
Mean grade?
Yes. That's all I had for the time being.
You covered a lot of my questions. Job well done, Kim.
Yeah, I think that
Attorney Brody, if you just give me just a minute, because
Sure.
Kim did ask a lot of the questions that I was anticipating. So you did state that you were wary of having a bus shelter. I assume you were envisioning a covered shelter that's similar to a lot of the Cape Cod RTA shelters?
Yeah, there's one out on Route 28, about a half mile away from there.
And I know
That's lit up at night.
I know the exact shelter that you're talking about. Would you be amenable to maybe something as simple as a park bench at the entrance of the roadway for
Sure. Oh, no
for the
question.
kids? I'm anticipating young families that may be living in this development and need somewhere to wait for the school bus.
Sure.
Okay.
It's very reasonable.
And regarding the septics, are they all individual for each house, or is there one common?
No, they're individual.
Mhm.
We've had experience with shared septics that has been unhappy. They're very difficult to manage. They're costly. We don't need it here. So,
And I suspect the maintenance of those individual septics, they fall upon the homeowner,
they do indeed.
the individual homeowner?
Yes.
Okay.
And we certainly give training to our homeowners about those things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that does it for me for now. Does anyone have any quick follow-up questions?
Just for clarification on the photovoltaic, so that's something that isn't being proposed at this time?
I'm sorry, what is?
The photovoltaic, the solar?
It's not, we're not promising it. We will include it if we can.
If you do, just on the plans, the plans show them that they'd be placed on the front of the house, but they're labeled on the back roof line. Is that just a error?
It's about the, would you want to address that, Bob?
Sure. The houses are all designed and situated in such a way so that the roof lines are oriented to the south. Some are the front of the houses, and some you end up, the back of the house is oriented to the south. Just so that, to give some, so that they're not all the same. You don't want everything to be the same. So we're kind of situating the houses in different ways as much as we can, but at the same time getting the good bulk of the roof line situated south, so that in the event that we don't get the panels on there sometime in the future, they could put the house will always be able to get some, the panels on it. But like the ones, there's just a few that have them on the back, and it's,
So that would just be, I'm just looking for the discrepancy in the plan, so that's what it'd be. They're more variable. Some would be on the front, some would be on the back.
yes, right, yeah, there would be. Most of them are on the front, but some would be on the back.
That's all I have.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll turn it over to public comment right now, and since we do have a lot of new faces in the room since we began early this afternoon, just want to go over things really quick. We allow 2 minutes per person. As the chair, I'll recognize you to come up to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record. It can be questions, concerns toward the project. Please state if you are in favor or against. Please direct any questions or comments you have toward the board, and we'll try to get your question answered as best as possible. We also like quality over quantity. If anything becomes repetitive, might shut down public comment for the night, and I'm sure we're looking toward a continuation at a date certain. So with that having been said, we'll allow public comment in favor of the project first. Would anyone, yes?
In that regard, may I make a statement?
You may.
Because I've been speaking with Jim Kinchla, who is the owner of 5 abutting lots, and he authorized me to indicate to the board that he is in favor of the project.
Does he have any, did he give you anything in writing?
He didn't do that.
Can he send you an email or something that you could forward to us?
Just an oral conversation. I can ask him for backup, but that's what he did.
We'd appreciate it if you could reach out to him if you would like that part of the record.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll take public comment in favor of the project first. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Holly Wilson, and I'm on every affordable housing committee I can find around this town. I'm the chair of the chair of the Affordable Housing Committee. That's Board of Selectmen appointed. I'm a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Falmouth Housing Authority. That's elected by people in the town. And I'm the appointee from the Housing Authority as legislated for CPA to the Community Preservation Committee. And I'm the chair of the Community Preservation Committee Housing Subcommittee. Because I see, since I grew up here, I moved back 11 years ago, and what I've seen is that we are in dire need of supporting our workforce, our disabled, our elderly, in their housing needs. And I was on the Affordable Housing Committee before Habitat broke ground on Glendon Road over here, and learned about Habitat. It's all been a learning curve for me the last 6 or 7 years, and the model seems to work really, really well. Homeowners are very vested. If they don't have the background to know how to take care of a home and be a good neighbor, all of that education is provided to them. And I know it's a big change for neighbors to have a piece of open land or woods suddenly become a lot of houses, but this is why 40B was developed, because we need housing throughout the Commonwealth. And Cape Cod, particularly with the seasonality of home ownership, it's really difficult. I talk to younger people all the time, and they're desperate, and they're bummed that they are living in such a compromised way financially because of their housing costs. They want what a lot of us have been able to have, which is our own single-family homes with a little yard, nice neighbors, on and on. So thank you, and I hope you support this.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Frank Almeida. I'm a resident of Falmouth since 1975. I've been working with Habitat since I retired 6 years ago. I was a major volunteer on the houses on Glenwood Ave. Since I've been involved with Habitat, I've been involved in about 40 builds. And it's a very impressive and humbling experience. I'm also on the board. So a lot of the stuff that Warren and folks have said is stuff that I've heard before. We build safe, simple, affordable houses. We do it for our neighbors who are nurses, who are waitresses, who bag your groceries, who are home health care workers. And we get, because we have the requirement of sweat equity, we get to know over a period of about 7 months, because it takes a long time to build these houses. We get to know these people, we get to know their kids, we get to know their families. If you've ever attended a dedication ceremony when one of these houses is completed, it brings tears to your eyes every single time. Falmouth is in need of affordable housing. This is a great spot to put them. It's in an area that's flat. It's going to be easy to build on. All of our most of the volunteer construction workers are my age. I got my Medicare card this year. Building these houses on flat pieces of property that are open, it's an easy process. It's a perfect place to do this, and I'm looking forward to you to approving the project. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak in favor of the project? Sir?
To the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is A. John Alves, Precinct 3 Town Meeting Member. I have a few questions to ask pertaining to this property. 10 years ago, we developed the Clippership Apartments in T-Ticket with 42 units, affordable. We abut this property on Cross Road, the Guinness Realty Trust, which is zoned agricultural. Years ago, we tried to buy this property. However, the entrance was not wide enough to local zoning to get to the back of the property. However, I know that Habitat does not have to conform to local zoning bylaws as sober houses here in town. So this can be relieved as far as they're concerned. However, there's only one entrance at Zero Barrels Road to this property. There's no second exit from the property onto either Barrels Road or Cross Road, which our properties border this property. I'm not against Habitat or affordable housing, never have been. I think it's needed more and more here in town. However, the infrastructure of Leonard Drive is not so that you can say Falmouth, isn't Falmouth nice? It's not. How many of you have walked that property to see what you're zoning? Any of you?
We regularly make site visits ourselves.
As far as walking the property to see what is being zoned? If not, I suggest that you do. There is only one bus stop, and that's at the end of Leonard Drive, on the corner of Leonard Drive and Cross Road. That's the bus stop. There's one playground, Fonseca Park, which is about a mile away from this proposed project which will undoubtedly have children, which is nice, but no place to play. So these are concerns that we have on Cross Road. There is all new houses on that road now in the neighborhood from 300 to 450,000, which are large houses. And most of them are all single residents. So I presume that you might take under consideration the zoning and the phase that they're going to be used, 2 phases in building this project. But I advise you to look at Leonard Drive, because Leonard Drive, Barrows Road, is the worst infrastructure in the town of Falmouth. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak regarding this application? Anyone else? Okay.
I'll say something. My name is Kevin McDonald. I live on Fresh Pond Road. I'm in a butter. And I would support a modified development. I feel that the 12 houses is oversized for the area, and I would hope you take into account the residential safety when you go to review this and approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make any other comments tonight?
Safety in the neighborhood.
Yes.
My name is Donna Edwards, and I live at 32 Barrows Road, and I own 36 Barrows Road, which is right at the entryway of this development. I don't know where you're going to put a bench.
If you
I'm
could
sorry.
direct your questions
Yeah, I
to
don't
us,
know where
please.
you'll put a bench at the end of that road.
Could
There's
you-
not enough frontage now.
Could you point out on the
for-
plan where your property is?
Make me put my glasses.
I don't think it shows where
No.
the property is.
You're not going to see it.
Okay.
But what did
It's
she?
right here.
Right, it's
It's
the
right
main
here. This line is my property line. So I have a house here and a house over here. So this corner I share between the 2 houses. Okay, so, again, Barrows Road, you do need to drive down it in the winter when it's one way, because it's so narrow, you can't fit cars both ways when they decide to plow. And having 24, I'd say at least 24 cars, more cars on that road worries me. And the other worry I have is the duration of this construction project. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
All those streets are narrow.
I am Elise Sweeting, and I own the property at 50 Barrows Road that's right in front of the development. And my concern is the carport that was there previously, and to talk about clearing, my lot comes to a point, so all that's natural woods. So they're talking about clearing, that's my property. That they're talking, because if you come out of the development and you're gonna go to the left, you can't see. It's all trees, right to the road.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Terry Brody, would you like to address the concerns of the public now, or?
Did they have?
There was an analysis of the sightlines from the entranceway, and I believe that is at tab O in the Transportation Impact Assessment.
Bless you.
On page 3 of that, there's a, at Exhibit O, page 3, Site Distance Assessment. It says lines of sight at the project site roadway intersection with Barrows Road were provided by Bracken Engineering, Inc. Based on our review of this information, lines of sight for motorists exiting the project site roadway will exceed 360 feet, which is appropriate for an approach speed of 45 miles per hour along Barrows Road. Given that the regulated travel speed along Barrows Road is 30 miles per hour, these measurements indicate that the project site roadway is appropriately located along Barrows Road to function in a safe manner. There is a recommendation for a stop sign at the intersection, that signs and pavement markings should be installed in accordance with the manual and uniform traffic control, that snow windrows along the site frontage and Barrows Road within the site triangle areas shall be promptly removed where such accumulations would inhibit sight lines. So I don't know how to address it any differently.
Okay.
I have a question just before we have some board discussion. How many cars can fit into each driveway?
A minimum of 2.
So is that a maximum of 2 as well? I mean, you're saying minimum of 2. What's the most that you can fit into the driveway?
Comfortably, you could really include two cars, and then there's a turnaround for those 2 cars to get out. If you get more cars in there, then it's hard to turn around, and it just makes it much more difficult. They're designed really to hold 2 cars.
Is there any limitation under the docs for how many cars a homeowner could have? Because there's no on-street parking.
No, I don't believe there's any
Okay.
Prohibition on, just they have to be registered. I mean, how many people can afford 3 cars?
Well, I mean, there's 3-bedroom dwellings, so perhaps somebody has an adult child or a child that drives and has their own car, and you have a couple, and very quickly we're at 3. So, okay.
Could happen, I guess.
I just have just a quick question on that site distance assessment. So on that at least 360 square feet, is that in both directions or one direction?
Linear. It's linear.
It was in both directions. It's actually 360 feet in one direction and 340 in the other. I believe that appears on your plan.
Do you know what tab that is, by chance?
The tab is 0 that they were reading from. Oh.
That's just a linear.
It's not square feet, it's linear.
So what's the linear feet? What would it be?
360. When you come out of the driveway, it's 360 this way.
We can provide that information. The surveyor,
Let me try.
engineering, that was referenced, they did show that on their plan. I don't know if that plan made it into the application.
If you have that, could you send a copy of that plan?
Yes, and it is not part of the application, but it was the survey plan, and it would be submitted at some point because it's Bracken who has to certify it.
Did we miss a member of the public? Did you wish to?
Yeah, that's a question.
If you'd like to come up and state your name for the record, please.
As he's approaching, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Just for the sake of clarity, all of these members are members that are designated to sit on this application, is that correct?
Did that at the beginning of the application, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Edwin Zielinski. I live in East Falmouth. And my question is, in previous applications for affordable housing, they had a percentage of affordable and market value. And I understand how that works because it makes the project affordable to do. The density and the amount of units in this one, it was stated early on in the hearing that they were all going to be affordable. My question is, how come so many units? Could it be decreased in size to make it more appealing to the public, because they're all affordable. I understand there's a need for units, but to make it happen, couldn't it be reduced?
Thank you for the question. If you'd like to address that question.
I'm sorry. Actually, when we started this process, our original conceptual design, which we presented to a group in the Hahnemann room of the library, oh gosh, a year and a half ago, we started with 14 units, and there was significant pushback on 14. So we went to 12, and we're comfortable with 12 because our lots are, compared to others in the neighborhood, they're ample. Frankly, why not 10? Why not 7? Why not 6? Why not 12? 12 is a good number. It works here. We see no reason to reduce the number of affordable homes that we can produce. And it's not that the cost of the land is so high that we have to sandwich in 12 units. Our costs are really in construction. We lose a ton of money on every single house that we sell, and it's not because of land cost primarily. It's because of construction. So we're looking at the most number of houses that we can get comfortably, consistent with the neighborhood, and we think this does it.
And we do typically see that traditional 40B model where X% are market rate and the rest are affordable. How are you able to have all of them affordable?
That's how we do it. This is Habitat. This is our mission, 100% affordability. We don't sell for money. Like I said, we lose roughly $75,000 to $100,000 on every single house that we build. And this is why we depend upon contributions to make up that difference. Contributions and grants, including, in this case, community preservation. I mean, it's great to have the town's support. We also have Federal Home Loan Bank Board, and the Willett Foundation is, I'm sure, contributing to this build, for whom the roadway will be named.
Board have any additional questions? If not, we can have some board discussion.
Yeah, so I just want to have some board discussion. I think overall the project looks good. I do think, given the density, you're giving up some other things that we would like to see in a project like this. I think a sidewalk is really important, especially if you're going to have a school bus stop at the end of the roadway. So you're encouraging young families to move in here and you don't have a sidewalk. The roadway itself is pretty narrow for 2 cars, so I understand, but it just seems like that's very narrow, and I would like to see a sidewalk. I'd like to see the bus shelter at the end, even if it's a park bench. I think the on-site lighting was addressed. The location in the Coastal Pond Overlay District, I think, has kind of not really been given any consideration, so I understand why a shared septic wouldn't be great. Maybe there's a denitrification system or partial
prohibitive.
I understand that. Ken is not here. I just know he
Oh,
always
your
asks for
statement
that.
is okay. She's wearing
But
his hat.
they did say, but there was some referrals about maybe attempt to reduce impervious surface or things like that to address the fact that this is in a coastal pond overlay district. I don't think personally, I don't think I'd like to see anything in that center area, but it would be nice to have a play area, so I don't know if we can fit that in. It would be nice to see some visitor parking, since 2 cars in a driveway, I think is, and if there's no on-street parking, I think that creates a real, anytime you have a visitor potentially, where are they going to park? So I think that's a real concern. Let me see, driveway separation, I think is okay. So those were kind of my big concerns. I really would like to see I think a sidewalk's important. It's just my perspective.
Well, I agree with you, Kim. I think sidewalk is definitely important, given the waiver on the road, the width of the road. Would be nice to see something in that cul-de-sac there, maybe not a permanent play structure, but maybe something more passive, especially if you're encouraging young families to live there, along with the park bench maybe for the bus stop. Okay. Anyone else like to?
I'm concerned about the parking, just, the parking for 2 cars, very quickly it could be 3, and then I think there'd be cars all over the place. With a narrow road, parking in the street, I think it's gonna be a problem. And, even if, and then where do you put the snow in the wintertime, it's.
Right, and I suppose if there were fewer homes, that maybe spreads out some
Right.
additional area to put some of those
Right.
site improvements or extra space.
No, I agree, pretty much the same comments. It would be nice some kind of recreational space in the center, only because it is so far from the park. Just down off on Fresh Pond, sidewalks make sense.
And there is that non-buildable lot 13 on the plot plan, so I don't know if some sort of reconfiguration could be done, but there's a little bit of space, maybe not as it's currently showed, but some sort of reconfiguration with all of our concerns in mind.
I mean, I think 20 feet's kind of tight. There's no question about that. I mean, that's tight with no sidewalk. Everything else, I mean, I'm okay with. I mean, that fits kind of, the underlying zoning until not too long ago. We had most subdivisions of this size and type. And I think I want to give some special consideration to Habitat, because these are all affordable. It's a charitable organization, and there are no market rate units in there. So, I've worked with these folks, and I just think it's the type of thing when you come to the table and you say they're all going to be affordable. They want to provide affordable housing. I think it's a nice area for it. I do think the road's kind of tight. I mean, I'm not a traffic engineer, but 20 feet's kind of restrictive. But, I mean, the design is absolutely beautiful. They're done by registered architects, the little porches and everything. I think it's killer. So I really like it. I guess I'll defer to the experts on the width of the road and the safety thereof, but I think it's a home run.
I think also the concern of, the pavement's going right up to the lot line, and somebody starts shoveling snow on the other people's property, it's gonna be causing problems, I think. So maybe a case of just taking one house out, and spread them out a little, solve some of that problem, especially in, like here, 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 here.
Well, I think in terms of a project, it was an excellent application so far, and they've shown that they worked with the town, and we're not always used to that with 40B applicants, and in terms of what we're asking for them to review, I don't think it's too much to consider, at least on their end.
Suri, do you have any other comments or
No,
anything
I
that you're?
don't.
No? Okay.
No, I don't.
All right, is that everything?
So, we would be looking to continue this. Suri, do you have a date in mind?
Nope.
No?
You guys got all my dates.
What was the date that we just added earlier tonight?
May 24th.
May 24th.
Paul might not be here.
Oh, the 24th, yeah. I mean, it's not looking good, but it's possible.
So,
But it would have to go on with 4 on the other hearing and
yeah.
4 on this one, but.
Warren,
Yes.
are you amenable if we continue it to May 24th of only having a quorum of 4 members?
Yeah, I'm concerned about that.
You are concerned?
Yeah.
Okay, that leaves that date out.
Some recent adverse experiences with others on boards, but
I don't blame you.
So what about June 7th?
Yeah, I'm around.
Question.
I've got
Proceed, please.
Helmus and a couple others. Well, we're starting it at 6 o'clock for Helmus, so if you want to continue it to 6:30, and I will not put any others on there which may require a waiver of any further applications.
Is that June?
That's June 7th.
June 7th.
Are all the members going to be here on June 7th?
Yep.
I already asked that, didn't I? Sorry, getting repetitive. Warren, how's that?
June, well, that's the next time we would get a full board. June 7th.
Unfortunately, it is, we are just so booked. And if you want to, complete contingent of the board, then May 24th is out.
Yes, well, we like a full contingent of the board.
Okay, so June 7th it is?
June 7th?
June 7th, 6:30.
Okay, so I will
Make that motion?
make a motion to continue application 15-18 Habitat for Humanity to 6:30 and June 7th, 2018 here in Town Hall.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Kim, second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just, maybe this is informal, but I'm just looking for some guidance, how we'd like the next meeting to proceed. Are you looking for?
Well, I think that's what the discussion was with the board. They're asking you to take into consideration what they just discussed, the sidewalk, parking, density,
Snow removal.
where the snow removal is going to be, the bus bench. It's not a shelter if it's just a bench. Shelter has a roof, maybe open sides or something, and it could face the street, so they're asking you to look at that. And I think that was it, density, parking, and
Recreation space.
you are going to, you did state earlier in the hearing that you are amenable to putting the lamp post, so that's nothing that we have to discuss further.
Yeah, that would be,
Okay.
we'd accept that as well.
All right.
I did ask during the hearing just about Habitat being a non-voting member for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right,
Just see if
excuse
we
me,
can-
yeah.
If there's anything on that.
And my apologies for not summarizing all that for you.
This man wants to ask a question.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you, board members. Yes, sir.
Hearing is,
I failed to mention, is any of this affordable housing going to be handicap accessible along with the sidewalk?
we can address that at the next hearing since
You can
we
address that at the next hearing,
voted
Warren.
to continue it.
I think they're all handicap visitable. Okay, thank you.
All right, so that does it for our public hearings for the night. We're moving on to our open meeting agenda items.
Get your gavel.
If everyone could please exit quietly, thank you very much. We still have some things on the agenda to discuss.
Okay, can we proceed?
Sure. First on the open meeting agenda, we have the minutes from April 5th, 2018. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Move to approve by Kim, second by Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to procedural rules and policies.
So we had talked about those at our open meeting. I just haven't had a chance to draft them up, but I will,
Okay.
and we'll review them.
Hopefully we'll
Sorry.
get them at the next meeting
Yes,
possibly.
that's the goal.
Thank you for the update, Kim.
Sorry.
Future agenda items?
None.
None? All right.
I can't be here on the 21st of June. June 21st.
Oh, Kim can't be here on the 21st.
Finally taking a vacation.
Well, you guys just messed mine up by adding the 24th.
Sorry, sorry.
Otherwise, I'm here.
Okay.
Thank
If
you.
There's
Kimberly,
no other further
That's the
agenda
only date,
items.
June 21st.
Next scheduled meeting is May 3rd at 6:30 here at Town Hall.
And you don't know if yours is May 24th.
Yeah,